Ladies and gentlemen, listen to me. Life has a funny way of speaking to us. And when it comes to love, it don't always shout. Sometimes it whispers. You ever been sitting somewhere and suddenly a name pops in your head? You wonder, why am I thinking about them? Then boom, they call you or text you. That ain't coincidence, that's connection. You ever been sitting alone, just minding your own business, maybe scrolling through your phone, watching TV, or driving home from work, and all of a sudden, somebody's face pops into your mind? No warning, no real reason, just bam, they're there. And you're like, why am I thinking about them? That right there is your intuition talking. That's not random, that's something deep. See, we all got this little voice inside of us. Some folks call it a gut feeling, others say it's spiritual instinct. I call it your God-given radar. And let me tell you something about that radar. It don't lie. When it pings, when it sends up that signal, it's because something real is going on, even if you can't see it with your eyes. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Maybe it's just memory. Maybe it's just nostalgia. But I'm talking about more than that. I'm talking about when the thought of someone cuts through all the noise in your day like a lightning bolt. When it feels like their name is floating in the air, like you could reach out and almost touch their presence. That's not memory. That's intuition. And more often than not, they're thinking about you too. You ever walk into a room and feel like something's off? You can't explain it, but you know it. That's your spirit picking up signals. Same thing happens when you're connected to someone. You don't need a text message to know they're on your mind for a reason. You don't need a phone call to feel that energy. You just know. And the crazy part is, they probably feel it too. Let me break it down. You're thinking about somebody randomly, and a few minutes later, they text you. Or you're telling a story to a friend, and just when you mention that person's name, their name pops up on your screen. Or even deeper, you dream about them, not just once, but repeatedly. That ain't just dreams. That's your subconscious and their energy aligning. You're both picking up on each other's frequency without saying a word. And the reason that happens is because energy don't lie. We live in a world full of distractions, social media, noise, work, stress, all of that. But when someone breaks through all that, when their energy touches yours without being physically present, that's not something you should ignore. That's real. That's intuition doing its job. Some people are emotionally intelligent, but a lot more people are spiritually connected and don't even know it. You're walking around wondering why you can't get them off your mind, why their smile keeps showing up in your thoughts, and why your heart feels a certain kind of warmth when you think of them. That's not obsession, that's connection. And it's a sign that both of you are spiritually in tune, even if you're not talking, even if you're far apart. Now, here's where people mess up. They ignore that intuition. They try to play it cool. Oh, I don't care. I don't miss them. Man, stop lying to yourself. Your intuition already told on you. Your soul already exposed you. You can try to keep it quiet, but when something's real, it don't stay silent forever. So pay attention to those moments. Don't brush them off like they don't matter. Because more often than not, those are the signs you need to trust. Love doesn't always show up with flashing lights and big announcements. Sometimes it starts as a whisper in your soul. And your job is to listen. When your spirit is trying to tell you something, especially about another person, don't ignore it. Don't write it off as just some emotional fluke. Because real love, real connection, real alignment, it starts with that inner knowing, that voice, that feeling that you just know. You don't need proof. You don't need validation. You just feel it. And that right there is the most powerful kind of truth you'll ever experience. Most people don't realize energy don't lie. You can fake a smile. You can pretend you're not hurting. You can act like you've moved on. But energy, that's the truth that walks in a room before you do. That's the invisible force that connects two people even when they ain't speaking, even when they're miles apart. That's real. That's mutual energy. Now listen, you ever just have a moment in your day, maybe you're at work, maybe you're out with friends, and something inside of you just pauses. You feel a shift, a pull, like your spirit suddenly got quiet and started paying attention. You don't know why, but someone comes to your mind, you can't shake it. That person just sticks in your thoughts. And at the very same time, maybe on the other side of town, or even in another country, they're going through something. Or maybe they're smiling, laughing, but for some reason, they're thinking about you too. That's what I call mutual energy. See, when two people have a connection that runs deeper than words, when they've shared real moments, real feelings, something gets planted. And even if time has passed or life has created distance, that seed is still there. It might not always bloom, but it's alive. And it grows every time you think of each other, every time you feel each other without even trying. That's not imagination, that's spiritual resonance, that's emotional alignment. And let me give you something practical. Have you ever been sad and out of nowhere you felt peace? Or you felt like someone was hugging your heart without even being near you? That's because someone you're connected to was thinking about you with love. Real love travels like that. It don't need a plane ticket. It don't need a phone. It just shows up in your spirit. And it works both ways. That's why it's called mutual energy. This ain't just some cute romantic talk either. This is real stuff. This is why a mother knows when her child is in trouble without a phone call. This is why you get chills sometimes when someone crosses your mind. Because energy is the language of the soul. And when two souls are connected, they talk whether or not the people do. Now I want you to pay attention to patterns. You ever realize you only think about this one person when you're feeling good? When you're happy, when you're growing? When something big is happening in your life? They come to mind. That's because that person represents something aligned with your highest self. That's the universe trying to remind you of what fits your spirit. Or maybe the opposite, you think of them when you're low, when you're tired, when you need comfort. That could mean they're your spiritual support, even if they're not present in your life right now. And here's the real kicker. Most of the time, they're thinking of you at the same time. Maybe they don't say it, maybe they're scared, maybe they're stubborn, maybe they're trying to protect themselves, but that don't stop the energy from moving. That don't stop your names from dancing around each other's hearts. And sometimes you both feel it, but neither of you reaches out. You both sit with it, wondering, are they thinking about me too? Yes, the answer is yes. You both feel the tug, the wave of memory, the flicker of emotion. And when two people feel that pull at the same time, that's more than coincidence. That's confirmation. Now here's where it gets powerful. When you know this is real, when you recognize the truth of mutual energy, you begin to treat your thoughts differently. You realize that when you send love out, someone's receiving it. When you think about them with kindness, they feel it in their soul. That's why it's so important to think about people with grace, even if you're not in touch. because your thoughts carry energy, and that energy becomes part of their day. So don't doubt it. Don't second guess yourself when someone keeps showing up in your spirit. Don't ignore those emotional waves that hit out of nowhere. That's not weakness. That's connection. That's the invisible thread that ties you together. And even if life has pulled you in different directions, even if years have gone by, if that energy still flows between you, it means there's something deeper still alive. And that right there, that's the truth nobody can fake. There's a kind of magic that happens between two people when their souls are in sync. I'm not talking about texting all day or posting selfies together. No, I'm talking about something deeper, something quiet. I'm talking about unspoken synchronicities. These are the little moments that look like nothing to everybody else, but they mean everything to the two people feeling them. Now let me ask you this. Have you ever thought about somebody and then minutes later your phone buzzes and it's them? That's not just a coincidence. That's connection. That's your spirits running the same race, even if y'all ain't in the same lane. That's two people moving in rhythm without even trying. Sometimes we think life is random, but let me tell you, it's not. There's order in this chaos, and when your spirit is connected to someone else's, you start dancing to the same beat, even if no music is playing. You'll think of them. They'll call. You'll feel anxious and find out later they were going through something heavy. You'll dream about them, then bump into them unexpectedly the next day. You can't plan that. You can't force it. That's just synchronicity in motion. Let me give you a real example. You ever had a dream so real about somebody that you woke up thinking they were right there with you? You felt their presence, you heard their voice, and you swore that moment actually happened? You go about your day trying to shake it off, but their name keeps floating back into your head. Then out of the blue, they hit you up. You're sitting there like, what in the world is going on? I'll tell you, that's your spirits talking while the world is sleeping. That's how deep this thing goes. See, when something is meant for you, when a person is tied to your journey, even if just for a season, your souls create these echoes. You think it's random, but it's a pattern. You both pick up on each other's energy without speaking a word. That's not just love, that's alignment. And here's what I want you to understand. Those synchronicities are not accidents. They are signals. They're God's way, the universe's way, your intuition's way, whatever you want to call it, of waking you up and saying, pay attention. Something's happening here. But too many people ignore it. Too many people chalk it up to timing or coincidence. Nah, man, that's divine rhythm. That's the kind of thing you only feel with someone you're truly connected to. Now, you might be thinking, Steve, how do I know it's real? You know it's real when it keeps happening. You know it's real when it happens even after time has passed, even when you've tried to forget, even when you've moved on, or at least you thought you had. But their energy keeps showing up like it's got a key to your spirit. That ain't just memory. That's something that still lives. You'll know it's real when the universe starts repeating itself, when the same songs keep playing, when their birthday shows up in the time on the clock, when random people mention their name out of nowhere. These little reminders, these tiny nudges, they're not trying to annoy you. But here's the thing. You've got to be present to recognize it. You can't be so caught up in distractions and pride and trying to control everything that you miss the message. You've got to open your eyes, open your heart, because when synchronicity shows up, It's showing you that the bond still exists. It's showing you that you're both being guided back into each other's orbit, even if just for a moment. So don't ignore those dreams. Don't laugh off those coincidences. Don't pretend those moments don't affect you. Because if it keeps happening, that's not noise, that's direction. It means something. It might not mean you're supposed to be together forever. It might not mean things will pick up where they left off, but it does mean the connection is real. And sometimes just knowing that is enough to shift your entire life. Real connection doesn't need constant communication. It doesn't need likes or comments. All it needs is alignment, a shared frequency. And when your soul tunes in and matches somebody else's like that, even for a second, you don't need words because the moment already spoke. When something is real, it doesn't just go away. It don't fade with time. It don't disappear just because life got busy. That pull you feel towards someone, that invisible thread tugging at your spirit no matter how far they are or how long it's been, that's not some passing thought. That's a sign. That's the kind of connection that leaves fingerprints on your soul. You ever try to forget somebody, but every time you think you've moved on, something brings them right back to your mind? You could be months deep into a new chapter, working on yourself, growing, changing, and then boom, you hear a song, pass a certain street, smell something familiar, and just like that, they're there again. Not physically, but in your spirit. That's not weakness. That's not you being stuck. That's proof the connection had depth. See, most people confuse time with healing, but some connections ain't meant to be healed from. They're meant to be understood. And the reason you can't shake them, the reason their name still hits different even after all this time, is because your soul remembers something your mind is trying to forget. Now, don't get me wrong. Not every person you can't stop thinking about is meant to come back into your life, but when the pull doesn't fade, when the thought of them still reaches you in the quiet, it means there's unfinished business. That doesn't always mean drama or regret. Sometimes it's just growth waiting to happen. Sometimes it means the story ain't over yet. Let me tell you something else. Real connections, the kind that tug at your chest when you hear their name, don't get erased by distance or time. People will say, just move on. But how do you move on from something your soul still recognizes? That's like telling the sun not to shine. You don't control that. It's something higher, something spiritual. You ever wonder why it's them you think about when something good happens? Why it's them that you wish could see you now? Or when something bad happens and you need comfort, you don't think about just anybody, you think about them. That's the pull, that's the bond. It's quiet, but it's strong. And you can feel it even when they're not around. That's how you know it's not just emotional, it's energetic. And here's where it really gets deep. You ain't the only one feeling it. See, when the connection is real, it's mutual. Even if y'all never talk about it, even if they never admit it, they feel that pull too. They have those moments too. They hear the same songs. They walk into places and remember you. They look at the moon and think about that one night y'all stayed up talking. It's not one-sided. The same gravity that's pulling you toward them is pulling them towards you. But here's the truth. Life doesn't always give us perfect timing. Sometimes people are connected but caught in the wrong chapter. Sometimes you need to grow separately before you can come back together stronger. That's why the pull matters, because it reminds you that no matter where life takes you, some bonds can't be broken. They bend, they stretch, but they don't snap. And even if you never cross paths